Okay. Cool. Then, all right. So is everybody ready for the pregame question?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, so you guys are going to have a choice of questions. I need you guys to agree on which question we're asking. Question option number 1 is, if your character gets money, do they spend it instantly or save it up? And question option number 2 is, does your character have a home to return to, air quotes, when this is all over? What are y'all thinking?
I'm thinking 2.
Yeah, I think the home issue or question.
Sure. Well then, let's go with that. Does anyone have an answer right off the bat? I feel like Roy's is a little obvious.
Yeah, I can go first if Roy's not ready.
Roy doesn't really have a home to go back to because he doesn't clearly remember where he came from. That being said, there are some people who want him to come home. There is a home defined for him.
Ooh.
It's not necessarily one that would benefit him in any way or like would be something that he likes, but there is a place that believes that it is Roy's home, and there are people who want him to go back there.
Like conscious entity of Roy, not just Roy's fleshy meat sack.
It's actually it's actually works in three different ways. There are the children of Mendenshire who want him to come back home to them. There is whatever he actually is as far as his synthetic sentience, where he could go back to, which is his actual home, but we don't even know. And I haven't even determined if that place still exists or if it's accessible. And then there is the home of his fleshy meat sack.
Right. Series of answers there. Who's next?
That last sentence sounded gross on my part.
That's good, as long as you're still feeling comfortable about it.
Yeah.
It's working out. I can go next. So the answer is no. There is no physical address that mate wants to return to. But the answer is also yes, because there's a script that runs every, let's call it, 20,000 or maybe 2 million seconds that tells mate to return to the network.
Oh, that's rough. I think this is one of the most upsetting mate details I've heard so far.
Yeah, and it's getting to the point where mate is looking for a way to get rid of the scripting, but it's pretty much hard coded.
Mike, have you read any of the Wheel of Time books?
No, I haven't.
The in the Wheel of Time books, there's a race called the Ogier who are they're kind of shaped like ogres, but in fiction they fit more of the roles of elves, where they're like the great builders of the world, and they're very peaceful, and they live in the forest, and they're very wise and stuff like that. And the Ogier have groves that they live in, just like elf homes kind of thing in the woods. And there's an interesting thing where if an Ogier goes too long away from a grove, they start to develop the longing to return back home. And if they don't return home after that, they start to go insane and just wither away and die. And that's what the thing you just told me reminded me of.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of it being harder and harder to resist in each iteration. So, like, right now, let's say it's 2 million seconds. The next one should be 1.5, and it should get shorter and shorter to the point where it will just be a constant stream of like, hey, you need to return. It's almost like what is that, like ransomware?
Okay. Jesus.
Yeah, it's bad.
Nate is a bleak character.
Yeah, sorry, it sucks to be a robot sometimes.
All right. Aveline, do you have anything?
I don't think that Aveline has like a home to return to after this. I feel like if this were to all end like right now in the present, Aveline would very likely return to like the Children of the Warp station that she normally finds herself at, and she would probably just throw herself back into that work.
Well, and
There
it's
isn't
also
really a home.
it's an interesting question because I feel like Aveline, probably more than anyone else, kind of has a home on the Gemini. Like
Yeah.
Aveline has family here, for lack of a better word, with Otema and Liko and all those people.
Like, and plus, I mean, she can do her Children of the Warp work from here. I feel like, yeah, it would definitely be either like switching her time back and forth between the two, but Aveline also, like, in all seriousness, would probably feel better about staying here than going anywhere else.
That's what I was thinking. Okay. I like that answer. Ruda?
Ruda has a home on the Aelfinn worldship, but he hasn't been home in so long, and I think he's been like kind of a nomad since then.
Yeah.
So yeah, he has a home, but whether he would go home after all this is done, I don't know. I don't think so. I think he would just continue on his merry way. Ruda has dreams of like opening a wrestling camp one day, like a celebrity wrestling camp. So I think when this is all over, that's I think his retirement goals.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool. Oh, I asked you this at one point, but I can't remember the answer. What's the deal with Ruda's father? Is Ruda's father still around?
No, Ruda's father passed in battle.
Okay. Was that before or after Ruda left home?
That was before, and it's kind of why Ruda left.
Ooh,
One of the
interesting.
reasons.
Okay. Thank you for answering. I will keep that in mind. How does Ruda feel about his father? Not to get all Freudian on you.
He idolizes him. Like, just straight up considers him a hero.
Daddy's boy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. And we will go ahead and send your response over to the psychoanalysts. Is that
psychoanalyst AI bot?
Now, Emil, I think I actually know the answer in Emil's case, but Kevin, why don't you go ahead and let me know what you think?
Just to reiterate, the question is like what you do, what you get. What do you do when you get money? Do you spend it immediately, or do you like?
The question was, well, there were two possible questions. We decided to go with.
You decided to do it the
character
home
have a
one.
home to return to.
Yeah. So the answer to that one is definitely yes. Although like the logistics of, I think the logistics of like returning to and from that planet are sometimes tricky because the Terran Empire, while it still controls that planet, kind of can control who gets in and gets out. So, like the short answer is like, yeah, there is a home that Elmo would return back to or would want to return back to, but it's dicey getting into and out of that area sometimes.
Interesting.
So like, there's a whole I imagine that there's a whole like I'm imagining the Terran and because I know that the Terran Empire was kind of based off of the Imperium of Man a little bit, just a tiny bit from 40K.
Yeah.
I imagine that there's just some like they have a little bit of draconian like surveillance systems going on, so you can get back into the
Ooh.
planet. But if you
Oh,
want to
yeah.
get back into the planet without them knowing, there is an active like there's an active what's it called smuggling movement on the
This
planet.
goes along well with the whole Ularul Inquisition.
Yeah,
Same
yeah,
thing.
it totally does. And I think that one of the things that works to this is kind of why the Nova resistance has been so successful is because Nova don't need oxygen and can live in extremely caustic or extremely radioactive environments. So like a Nova, you can literally seal a Nova in an airtight canister of just the most wretched industrial waste imaginable, and there's
And
no
they'll
way,
love it.
and they will love it, and it's like, and no like royal or no imperial inquisitor can check, right? You
Mhm.
know, because they'll die immediately. So, yes, Amma will go back, but Amma will probably use contacts to get smuggled in because he doesn't not a big fan of the Terran Empire.
So, you raised an interesting point because you compared it to um the Terran Empire from 40K, and then you mentioned like a surveillance state. And my thing when I was world building this was this game actually started as a Warhammer 40K Brighthammer campaign. And I was hoping to have or so the thing I was trying to do with the Empire was have the idea of the Imperium from 40K, but not evil, like not totally good either, just like complicated, like everything in the real world is.
Yeah,
So one of the things they have going for them is that if you are part of the privileged like middle class and lower middle class, um, life is pretty good in the Terran Empire because they have this like absolute socialism that everybody can live off of if they like opt into it, unless you're an immigrant.
and so Bryn,
Unless you're an immigrant.
Yeah.
Bryn, this is actually exactly where this comes in, is that there are like Nova around the galaxy that aren't citizens of the like Terran Empire, but might want to live on this essentially like Nova paradise world because it's
Yeah.
so like perfectly acclimated to like what Nova eat and the environment that Nova would like love to just exist in, that there's just a like, hey, do you want to come live on this planet? Oh, by the way, you're not a member of like the Empire, but that doesn't matter because we'll just put you in this like giant vat of acid and like no one will check, and then you'll just like pop out and you'll be there.
Well, the thing I was thinking about the like socialist angle compared with the surveillance state thing is those things actually feed into each other very nicely because uh one of the complicated factors with socialist foreign policy is that they're making a lot of investment in their people, and their society is dependent on the people kind of like sticking around to pay that forward. Like you get free education so that you can become a good citizen, so that you can make society better for everyone else, so people can continue getting free education, that kind of thing. That would very much motivate them to have a strong surveillance network just to make sure that like society's ticking along well.
Point of fact, that is communist, not socialist.
Right.
Yeah. I think so. I think that this is like a difference between like the reds and the greens. I don't want to get into
Yeah.
political philosophy here, but like I see like the what's it called? The Terran Empire sounds like they're more red, and
In the sense of their state capitalist slash communist, like modern China.
yeah,
Mm,
exactly.
This is how they sound to me. Like they use socialism as the go-to term, but what it really comes down to is governmental control of pretty much all industries.
As
Yeah.
opposed to like anarcho-communism.
Yeah.
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 Totally. They're definitely not like anarcho-communist.
Yeah, because all
So-
socialism would mean is that the workers own the means of production, and that's it.
Yeah.
Sorry to get all poli-sci.
No, you're totally
Yeah,
good.
no sweat, man.
Anything we can do that helps me better understand the factions in these worlds is good. And this is an interesting, like, glimpse behind the curtain. I don't necessarily know everything there is to know about the factions in my own world, because like when a question comes up about like, oh well, is this the case in this faction, what I do is I think about the things that inspired that faction and I ask, well, is that the case there?
Yeah.
So
I think-
conversations like this are helpful.
I get the impression that the Terran Empire, while like socialist, is also kind of like heavy. There's some occasionally heavy-handed and kind of statist a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's very much true.
Yeah.
and Amul is not like this giant. I don't see Amul as this like giant crusader against that, but he is kind of like, oh, there's a rule that you have. Oh well, I'll just do the thing that lets me not do that.
Yeah, is Emil a little bit of an anarchist?
Yeah, a little
good.
bit.
All right. Okay, so that was everybody's pregame questions. That was some good conversation. I think it's time to get started on our game. Is everybody ready? No other business we need to take care of?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can get it popping.
Okay. So, the first thing that I need to do just to establish some foreshadowing is we're going to start with a dream sequence for Aveline. Aveline, the morning of the day that this game takes place in, that was an awkward sentence. That morning, you wake up from a dream and you were dreaming about somebody you probably haven't thought of in a little while. It was two of your friends from college, the academic planet that you lived on back when you were the planet that you grew up on, that you went to school with Nox on. The planet. Sorry. You remember two of your friends from that planet. They weren't humans. They were actually a native species of a rogue kingdom nearby. They were named Darach and Ire. They were brothers, and they were both princes that were in line to ascend to the throne. So they had been sent over to your planet because you guys were the most like elite academic institute available in their area. So I think you just have a dream, and here's what I want to do. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Tarak and Ire, and then I want you to tell me what the dream was about, all right?
Okay.
All right. So Tarak was first, their species pretty much just look like humans. They have mostly human skin tones. The big visible difference between them and humans is that they have very large eyes, like owls. And because I did just say that they are like owls, I'm also gonna throw in that they can just turn their head 360 degrees because
Creepy.
that's entertainment, baby.
Oh my gosh.
So, so Darak was always very. Is anybody taking notes?
I am.
Okay, I'm gonna post in the spellings on these.
Oh,
two
awesome.
people.
Thank you.
So Darak was always very serious and stoic. I think he took the fact that he was going to have to be king one day very seriously and didn't like play around and party a whole lot. He was in your friend group, but he was always kind of a buzzkill, you know? So like maybe if you guys were gonna pull some particularly heinous prank that might get you on double secret probation, you just don't tell Darak about that. Ire is Darak's much cooler younger brother, who is also in line to the throne, but only if Darak dies. And because of that, he doesn't think that's very likely, and he has never taken his responsibility seriously. He's much more of a party fiend. He's much more outgoing and has a lot more fun. He's also much more into social dissidence and social movements, and is generally just like kind of rebellious and rowdy, whereas his brother very much plays by the rules. So are you getting a good sense for these two characters?
Yeah.
All right. I want you to give me a very quick scene that has Aveline, Nox, Darak, and Ire in it. And it can be anything. Remember, it's a dream, so there doesn't need to be any context behind it. Just let me know what you're thinking.
Oh boy.
Did I rate an ass?
I'm sorry, I was so focused on the notes. I'm just like,
You randomly sound very far away, Bryn.
I feel like no, that's me. I think you're picking me up.
Oh, that's weird. Is it? Okay.
But I feel like just because of like how Aveline probably like approached college, like she definitely took her studies seriously, but I feel like she was also more in the crowd of like, let's just goof off and do whatever we want. So it's probably very likely for Aveline to be dreaming of a sequence where she has ended up at a party with Nox and Ire, and they've drugged Darak along, and he's like doing his buzzkill thing. I imagine because of the way you've described Darak, the best thing I can think of is she's dreaming about a party, and they bring Darak along because they think it's going to be funny and they want him to unwind. And in actuality, he gets to the party and he's just like so unamused with everything that's going on. He takes it upon himself to start rounding up all of the liquor and like
fucking call the RA.
he doesn't. Well, he tries to. He tries to call the RA, but like some of the RAs are also at the party and like just kind of chilling, like, yeah, I know this is my job, but I'm taking the night off. So like nobody's like really into the fact that he's trying to shut this down, so he takes it upon himself to try and shut it down. And
Killington.
I know, Superbuzz Killington, but Ire takes it upon himself to challenge his plan to stop this party. And he basically challenges him to a competitive keg stand, and whoever's the last one standing gets to either stop the party entirely or keep the party going, and Darak has to like stop complaining.
This feels
Wow.
like the climactic scene of one of those rowdy college movies.
Drawing a total blank. Thank you for being
Chug,
patient while
chug
I got
for
from
all of
point
us
A to B.
here. It's so good. All right, is that scene?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, I need one little detail. What is Nox doing in this situation?
I feel like Knox is playing devil's advocate. Like he's periodically going to both of them and acting as if he's on their side and like giving them little tips on like, oh, here, this could give you the edge, or like this could do that. But he's going back and forth, so it's like he doesn't really have a stake in this. He just wants to cause trouble.
Okay, I like that. I was gonna say on the topic of Aveline studying very hard but also wanting to do all the parties and have fun. The archetype that she's reminding me of is it's a very niche archetype in like college movies of the person who like wants to do a lot of parties and wants to have a lot of college shenanigans, not because they think it's particularly fun, but because they have like a checklist of things they want to accomplish while they're at college, and those parties and stuff are like on the checklist.
Sounds a little like the green character from Star Trek Lower Decks.
I haven't seen it yet.
Hmm.
There is an episode of Community where they do this, but yeah, the idea of like she studies very hard and then she goes to college, or she goes to all the parties because she wants to be the kind of college student that goes to parties, so that like when she is out of college she can have the obligatory conversations about how she went partying when she was in college. Do you think that's the right angle for Aveline, or do you think it was different?
No, I think that's definitely more of the right angle. Like, it's not that it was particularly natural to her, but it is like it both came from her not wanting to be completely like her parents, because like while she did have a good relationship with him, they were kind of buzzkills because of their like
Sure.
professions.
They were kind of drocks.
Yeah. So like I feel like she not only did it because she wanted to push like her comfort zone in that regard, but it was also like a thing of this is just on the checklist. I have to do this, you know?
It's so good. All right, I like that. That's perfect. Okay. So, you wake up from that. Okay. Trying to figure out the best way to do the timing here. Uh, I think that you wake up from that dream to the sound of your like science fiction cell phone ringing on your bedstand. Do you answer it?
I feel like she's initially going to be like slapping it because she thinks it's an alarm, and when it keeps going, she's just like, ugh, and she finally like pulls it over and answers it,
Okay, it is Nox.
and she's going to hang it up. No.
Okay. She does not hang up, but what does she do when she gets a call and it's Nox?
I feel like, oh, she probably looks at the screen like while it's ringing, and she's just sitting there like, why? And like she probably lets it almost go to voicemail, and then she finally answers it, but instead of saying anything, she just kind of answers it and like puts the phone to her ear and waits for him to talk.
Okay. Yeah, so I think there's gonna be a few seconds and he goes, hey Aveline, are you there?
What do you want? Why are you
Um,
calling me? I was asleep.
I'm sorry about that, babe. Um,
No.
okay. Hey, listen, this is rough. Do you remember our friend Darach from college?
That's crazy. I was just dreaming about him, but what does this have to do with anything?
He passed away, last week. I just heard about it from Ire. I wanted to give you a heads up about it.
This is the worst possible call to get, especially after waking up from such a good dream with him. What is happening?
Yeah. How does Aveline just go quiet for a while?
Yeah, she definitely like mutes the speaker and she's just like, well, she mutes the mic and she's just kind of wow, she's feeling things right now.
Okay. So I think he gives it a second, and then when it becomes apparent that you're not going to respond, he says, so anyway, I saw that the Gemini is not too far away from their system. I was hoping that maybe after you guys jump next month, you would be able to swing by. We're going to have the whole planet is going to have a grand funeral for their king, and I think it would be good for you to get a chance to talk to Ire and everything like that.
I feel like Aveline would have a quiet moment to herself where she's like, first of all, why is he keeping track of where the Gemini is? But then she's just like she's just like choking on the answer. Like it's more of an automatic thing than it is her actually thinking about it. She's just like, oh yeah, absolutely. I'll have to see what the crew wants to do, but I would really like to make some time to come by. I'll see what I can do.
So, the we can assume that either you guys talk for a while or you don't. In abstract, how does the call end?
I think it probably is a thing where they end up talking longer than they mean to because it's one of those awkward things where neither really wants to get off the phone, but like even so the conversation is still going really tense and eventually it does just kind of end in a place where
Is it kind
instead
of
of
like they don't
Mhm.
really have anything to say, but they don't want to hang up either?
Exactly, like it's more just like they're saying things back and forth to each other automatically even if there is no subject
There's
matter.
conversations in existence.
Yeah.
You just made me live through that secondhand. Go on. So, do they get to a place and do you think maybe it's like something else comes up like Aveline gets a notification that it's like maybe her alarm goes off and it's time to get breakfast, or maybe she like pretends that that's the case?
Ooh, no. I think that like while she's having this conversation, occasionally she's been like pulling the phone away and she probably sends Mate a text and she's like, give me some kind of emergency. And Mate I imagine that Mate probably at first thinks that like, oh no, like what's the emergency? And she's like, no, just make something up. Like give me a reason to not be doing what I'm doing right now.
Okay, so Mate.
Please cause an actual emergency. Please cause an actual emergency.
Yeah, I wouldn't understand the implication of creating a fake scene, so I just start a fire in the picnic garden.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, this is absolutely fantastic.
And then I send you a
do you
picture.
think that you send it? Yes. Okay, so she's having this conversation with Knox, and the whole time she's like asking Mate to like create an emergency. He sends her the picture of this fire she started, and she's just like, "Holy shit! I in that level of emergency." But either way, she's just like, Knox, gotta go. fire. Anyways, bye. And she like hangs up.
Everybody gets an email from Amul that's marked high importance that goes, I swear it wasn't my mech this time.
And he's like, bro, that was my favorite picnic table. Like,
It's like I needed to do it though. I was asked for a favor, and I always return the favor.
That was a living wood picnic table. You killed something.
that was my go-to picnic table.
You can get another one. We're rich, remember?
Exactly.
The principal of
It's
the
all
thing
good.
robot.
Okay, it's very good. All right, so that was the obligatory opening to the scene. Now, at the end of the last game, we established a few chores that some of our players needed to take care of. And in addition to those, I also have at least one scene that I'm hoping to do with Mate and one scene that I'm hoping to do with Emil. So I think probably the way to do this is I'm going to start with one of the Aveline and Company scenes, and then do like Mate scene, and then Aveline scene, and then Emil scene, and etc. So Aeneas and Morgan, you guys have a few different assignments. One is tea time with your sword and or mech, respectively. One is go to one of Otema's sermons. And one of them was just like walk through the gardens, but that's not super good scene. And then another thing that we had is a while back, Ruda offered to help Anwar with his Aelfinn style sword fighting.
Yep.
And Aveline and Hyakamaru need to do some sword practice as well. So we could have sword training with the four of you guys. So tea time, sermon, sword training. What do you guys want to do?
Sword training.
Sword training.
Okay. What just happened? All right. So the arena. Here we go. Let me go ahead and. All right. Here's our concept art for the arena. One thing that I did with this concept art is I wanted to have this pixelation effect on the floor because there's this like upper ring where spectators can sit, and then this room here in this like circular room is much bigger than it seems, and this is actually the same room that you guys did your very first like tutorial level in. It is kind of like a holodeck, but they don't use hard light because hard light projectors are very expensive, and to do something on this scale is just unfeasible. So what they do instead is they do regular holograms, and then the floors and walls are made of these like, they're kind of like cardboard boxes that like fold up, but they can unfold and arrange themselves into like boxes or cylinders or different like polygonal shapes. So you will load in a program, and then the room, like first the floors and walls kind of morph themselves into like a polygon map of the arena that you loaded, kind of like you would have in a video game.
X-Men.
And yep, and then the hologram projector superimposes the scene over it. So what setting are you guys doing your training in? What setting mod have you loaded in?
The setting of the palace of the Emperor from Flash Gordon.
Oh my god. I imagine
I feel like
Ruda and
Ruda-
Aveline probably had an argument about it, but Ruda won, so yes, we are absolutely
Would you
here.
disengage safety protocols?
Ruda was very childish about it too.
Okay.
He's like, I want to do the football scene.
I can see Aveline now doing the whole "go Flash go" thing, really unenthusiastically.
Okay. So
Aveline, you are a lizard man. Like, this is what Ruda is saying. Aveline, you need to be a lizard man. I cannot do this training without you being the lizard people.
That was probably what started the argument. Like,
Yeah.
at first, you were just like, we need to be in the palace level. And she was like, okay, fine. And then you were like, yeah, but you also need to be a lizard person. She was like, now hold on. Hold on. Why?
Didn't the lizard person get stabbed?
Because it's tradition, Aveline.
Hence
Oh.
when.
Wow. Is that Mark Wahlberg?
I do
Yeah,
believe
what-
it is Mark Wahlberg.
What the
Okay. So Aveline, I think that you two pair off because Anwar is refreshing himself on Aelfinn style greatsword fighting. Aveline is learning katana sword fighting from Hyakamaru. So you guys are going to start your instruction separately. And Aveline, I think Hyakamaru he starts by giving you kind of a rundown of, stances and how to draw your sword and some of the fundamentals of it. Interestingly, because your sword is an Aelfinn monoblade, it doesn't follow the same rules as Galactic standard. So a lot of the techniques that he knows are specifically derived from the idea of not ever twisting your blade while it cuts, because if anything puts the monoblade filament even slightly off track, then it snaps like a guitar string, and then your sword is like junk until you can get it repaired. But that's not the case with your sword, because your sword uses Aelfinn magic, essentially, for its cutting blade. So instead, he's able to switch pretty quickly to, like, sword stances and sort of sword fighting philosophy of, like, spacing and stuff. And this is also another place where you kind of don't fit the normal rules, because an important part of sword fighting is spacing and making sure that you are the distance away from your enemy that you want to be in relation to the length of your hitbox, essentially. Your the area that you can defend in and the area that you can attack in, and making sure that you want to close that attacking zone while you're attacking and stay in the defending zone while you're defending, and all this stuff. And all of that is, it's relevant to Aveline because she has to be able to fight without teleporting, but Aveline can very much break those rules because a normal sword fighter cannot just be behind their opponent anytime they want. So we're going to actually, so this is not part of this scene specifically, but I think you guys have like a whole month that you guys don't go adventuring. We established that you guys were going to take a month off. I think during that month, because you have your two mentors, what are their names? Starfire
And Torben.
Yeah. I think Starfire starts attending these after a little bit, and Well, Hyakamaru is focusing on helping you with the the cutting styles and stuff. Starfire is helping you with the teleportation philosophy of when it is efficient to expend energy in teleporting versus stepping and stuff like that.
Okay.
Question:
Yes.
What would be the so the elfin swords, are they like straight blades, more like European swords, or are they wide curved blades like Middle Eastern swords, or
They
what?
are katanas.
They're katanas. Okay, so their closest real world equivalent, I guess, to sword fighting style would be like an Eastern style.
Yeah, it's a style that heavily focuses on slashes and does very few stabs.
Gotcha. Okay. So I just wanted to add on that, like, during this month of practice that they were, or these times they were practicing over this span of time, they would see Roy in there practicing occasionally as well with his lightsaber sword blade whip.
Cool.
Um,
Yeah, I
Roy's
love this.
Roy's sword style, they would notice, would be a little bit different from theirs, but not that different. I would say the closest I could get to it wouldn't actually be a real world thing. It would be from Game of Thrones, the Bravosi style, the water dance.
Mm.
So Roy's movements are similar in the fact that they don't do as much stabbing. They do more slashing, but it's just more of a flowing style
Yeah.
as opposed to the elfin style.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that the Aelfinn style would very much focus on getting back into stance, and then I think that the Aelfinn style focuses heavily on like a rhythm of battle, of like attacking and then retreating and analyzing and then attacking and retreating. And it's not the Roy's combat style is more consistently fluid and everything. Um, Ruda, how does training with Anwar go? So Ruda has this kind of curved great sword with some like almost like a serrated section at the bottom. Anwar's great sword is straight and has two distinct blades with like a open line running down the middle between them. You guys know the like style of sword that you see in fantasy stuff that I'm talking about?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I'll pull up an image anyway. But so you guys use slightly different great swords, but the philosophy of combat is the same. What is your initial like fundamentals like with Anwar?
Ruda is going to like kind of play bad cop with Anwar. Like if Anwar's gonna get serious, Ruda's gonna get serious too. But Ruda's not gonna like enable him, so to speak. So like this is the same way he treats his like people that he's done personal training with. He'll kick their ass, and he definitely kicks Anwar's ass. Plays dirty, and then teaches him lessons about how to like thwart the people who would play dirty.
Well, I think this is very interesting because Anwar has spent the last decade of his life living with humans and other galactic standard folk and learning their styles of fighting, which is why he recently has been fighting with just a submachine gun and a combat knife. And I think that during that part, he worked with like mercenaries and became much more. What's the word I'm looking for? He became a lot more like dirty and learned how to fight dirty and think like, you know, be prepared for people to fight dirty. And I think that the interesting thing for him is not knowing how to respond to somebody who's fighting dirty, but knowing how to use his Aelfinn, how to do that kind of sword fighting with a great sword, because it's
Right.
totally different being able to respond to dirty tactics with this big lumbering piece of metal than it is with just a knife and a SMG.
Yes. Would you consider Anwar strong? Like, does
Yeah,
Anwar
he's
have a lot of?
Also, remember, all Aelfinn have 4 arms, so there's plenty of arm muscle to go around there.
Okay, yeah. So Ruda just like makes fun of him. Do you even lift, bro?
I
Anwar's
mean,
strong, but he's not that strong. He's not used to that greatsword technique.
well, and
And
I
then
think a lot
Ruda's
of it
like
is
showing off by like holding a greatsword with like 2 fingers.
because I think that, and this is actually somewhere that I think that Ruda isn't necessarily relying just on his muscles. Anwar is certainly strong enough, but he's out of practice, and with a great sword, the important thing isn't necessarily muscles, it's understanding leverage and understanding how the weight of the sword is going to respond to different
Right.
inputs.
And the movement.
Yeah, and so I think that he's wasting a lot of energy. He's using a lot of his muscles to swing the sword around, while Ruda is able to rely more on just like knowing how to move his body.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are the 2 scenes. Those, I think that's the first like week of you guys training together, is going over those fundamentals. And then after the first week, I think you guys switch to doing sparring exercises of different like situations, like King of the Hill and stuff like that, using like padded weapons for your swords and stuff like that.
Roy is amused by this.
Yeah, but there are different things to practice to like test different combat philosophies. But I think that's what you guys are working with for the sparring. Is there anything else you guys want to get out of this scene? Because I think that's
I was just going to add that they would also, while seeing Roy practicing there, they would like try to invite him to practice with them as well. He would refuse every time. The reason why I said he was chuckling at the last few lines that you said about the padded swords is because Roy doesn't pull punches. He doesn't know how to spar. All of his moves are kill moves. But nobody really knows that he's doing it because of that. They just think he's being a jerk.
all right. So that's a good scene. Now, Kevin, are you still available?
I'm here. I'm
Okay,
available the whole time.
cool. So our next scene has Emil and Roy and Mate. So, Mate, we had discussed a little bit ago that Mate obviously wants to get their memories back, and after their kind of epiphany with the Xenocians in the last level and realizing that they could hack their own memory, that gives them a avenue with which they can try to get their memories back. But it's it's like doing surgery on yourself. You just aren't able to get the right angles. So we had discussed the idea that maybe Mate would ask Emil and Roy to help them with this, because those are the two best hackers on the team. How did that go?
Yeah, I think after about a week of trying, when getting back to the Gemini, Mate just figures out that they can't get to the access port that they need to, even with their retractable arm, and work it in a way that makes sense. And it's hard to do because I still haven't gotten my update.
A degree of there's the access to the physical port, and there's also like data ports. There's like a degree of, in order to open this one port that they need in order to access their own memory, like this particular section of memory files, they need to shut down the part of their brain that does hacking, and that like there's like some like paradoxical like stuff that you just fundamentally can't do yourself.
Yeah, it's like asking a organic to drown themselves. There are safety precautions in there that just stop you from turning all the antivirus software off. Yeah, so
I feature is managed by your organization.
Yes. It's like, wait, I thought I uninstalled Avast. Nope, it's still there.
So you want our help?
Yeah, so like, yeah, I definitely send an email and a series of texts to both Emil and Roy, just saying like, hey, make time, because I don't know how long this will take. I don't know how many memories I'm trying to de-address and what actually needs to be fixed, but something's wrong. I can tell that much, and something was off since we've been back from the planet. So I could really use your help, and I don't know what you guys need in return for that, but I'd be willing to offer whatever's in my room if y'all want that.
Amul is a little concerned because the closest thing to an actual life form that he has worked on is Amul's Tamarachi, like cats, which are just like toys. So I'm like concerned because I don't want to, like, I don't know, the stakes are higher. Like I don't want to like cut the wrong wire.
Important question. Mate's firmware kind of operates on a different principle than Galactic Standard. Does Mate have a way of making a backup?
Yeah, so Mate practiced doing that with the interface on the Gemini's computer, and kind of made a copy of themselves and basically imaged it to the spaceship's computer. So Mate exists as a part of the spaceship, but kind of as a different entity. Mate hasn't thought about the idea of backing themselves up since that's a thing that wasn't necessary when they were a part of the network, and there's nothing in there telling them that they need to do it anymore, so he doesn't really.
Roy is actually not concerned at all about Mate, and I got this idea because of the mention of the backup. And he's very happy to assist because he's thought for a while that something was going on with Mate. So he's said to him, I'm glad that you've arrived at a similar conclusion to my own. I have an idea which doesn't actually present you much risk. This will allow us to test whether or not our actions will cause you harm. And he uses his disc drone projector to create a simulation of Mate that we can work on, to basically a staging version of Mate that we can test fixes on before we actually trigger them on.
Oh, look at you, the tester. I'm like, yeah, let's make a backup, and here's our staging environment for Mate.
We could also
Mate's very tickled.
Yeah, we could also use the Galanga's like private server that I just bought like 2 level ups ago to use as the hosting environment.
So here's the thing, Mate tried that already, and the amount of data that needs to stream at any one time through their core is just not feasible for the current upgrade that you have on the ship. I tried it and I crashed it. It don't work, so that's why I use the Gemini as a staging area for myself, but even then it was just for like, hey, here's 14
So do you think, though, the combined processing power and streaming abilities of the Distron projector, which is already a pretty powerful device, plus that of the Gemini, would be enough to do a staging environment?
So that's why I asked both of you here, is because I'm going to need the access codes from the ship and the processing power from both the actual Gemini itself, from Emil's backup server, and from your Distron projector. I kind of ran the simulation, and it doesn't work without all three of them.
Cool.
Are we going to ask the Gemini if it's okay if we like turn them into a supercomputer for like a
I don't
minute?
think we would. I don't. Oh, I think. Well,
We don't have to ask.
You might. Emil might, but I don't. I don't think the machine intelligences or the synthetic intelligences of Roy and Mate would have the consideration.
Oh, also,
Hey,
we don't
we
have to
might
ask
shut that
because
down on the
we're already good friends, and I've
True.
explained to her exactly what it is that I'm trying to do, and she's cool with it. We
So
also
we-
didn't run it by the captain, so I don't know if they're cool with it.
We need 5,000 PS5s.
Just duct tape together.
Just duct tape them together.
Yeah, we're just gonna do
God.
Sigourney Weaver and Aliens. Just duct tape it all together.
Yep.
and it'll work.
The person that you were talking to get like permission to hack into the Gemini, was that Corin, the engineer?
That should have been Corin, yeah, because we have a pretty decent relationship.
I'm
So-
thinking we ask for forgiveness, not permission. Let's like do it at a
Agreed.
time where they're like not gonna like know, right? Well, let's like monitor their CPU like usage, and then when it drops
Mhm.
to like I don't know, it's the middle of the night, it's dropped to like 5%. It's just running background stuff. We like do it.
Yeah,
And then, like I don't know, man. Like the lights might cut out for like 5 minutes,
Mhm.
but like we'll figure it out.
yeah, that's probably the best way to do it. It's
Yeah.
I have a pretty good idea
I
based on the
don't know.
maintenance logs what's going to happen, and what our window of opportunity is. We have like a good solid hour where we can mess around with this. Outside of that, I think we would be pressed, like for someone to come down and check.
I'm almost gonna get this like happy emoji face on, and he's like, I think organics call these secrets. Hee hee.
Oh yeah, no, there's so many secrets. I can't wait.
Roy just says optimal.
Okay, Bryn, how would you like us to do this?
Okay.
Re-rollings?
So during the interludes, I typically okay, well, let's establish what needs to happen. So you guys have a testing model. I'm not interested to do any rolls to get the testing model set up. Are you guys going to do one night doing a test run and then a second night doing the live run? That would obviously be better for safety purposes, but keep in mind that if somebody does notice the what happens the first night, it might make it impossible to do the second night.
I guess we could do rolls for whether or not we're noticed when we're running these running the test versus running the live deploy.
Do you want to try to do it in one night or plan to do it in 2 nights?
I'm thinking we tried to do it in one night, but we're
I
gonna
was
do
say
it in the
same.
let's do it in the bowels of the ship. So if someone is like, hey, why'd the lights cut out? They're not gonna immediately know it's us.
Yeah, we're not
Also-
hanging out where we normally do, specifically
No.
because I
Roy
don't
feels
want that to be
variable could
noticed.
change from one night to the next, so yeah,
Mhm.
we would be
I think
into
that-
the one night thing.
One of the big contributions that Amal is gonna like propose is I'm going to use my hardware roll to try to set up the fastest uplink like physically possible. So
Sure.
the data transfer, so there's not like we're not bottlenecking transferring data back and forth.
Okay, give me a hardware roll.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a hardware roll. Also, the thing that I want to make, it's an X-ray optocoupler. That's what I'm gonna be making.
All right, 13 is a fantastic roll. Is that a...
Yeah. So can I just describe it to you?
Yeah.
All right. So X-ray optocoupler, we're using X-rays to transfer the data. So like normal, it's basically like a fiber optic cable, but because X-rays operate on such a tighter like wavelength, you can transfer the data so much faster. So instead of like, normal what's it called? Fiber optic cables use like nanometer light, and we're using like X-rays, which is like way, 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 way faster. So we're talking like petabytes a second fast.
Nice.
Okay, give me a second
I
because
feel like at one point Emil would have to tell Roy to step back because of the potential of irradiation, and Roy just doesn't think about that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I'm gonna be like, look, yeah, and this is so this is also reflected in Kevin not thinking of it, but like, yeah, it's kind of hard to do. Like, okay, you can shield fiber optic cable, but you can't really shield X-rays because they just go through everything. So yeah, I would stand back because this could kill you.
Yeah.
hmm.
Yet
So
another reason why this shell is inefficient.
Don't let any organics in this room. This is some heinous stuff.
okay, so give me a few seconds. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to make a list. Right now, mate, I think it's one of those situations where mate doesn't know what they don't know, kind of thing. So I'm going to make a list of 4 general categories of information about mate's past, and then I'm going to have you guys roll 4 different times, and maybe I'll have a different one of you do the roll on each of those.
Okay.
And those will determine how much information you access in each of those categories. So give me a second to think about this.
I like how open you all were to the idea of just going in and hacking myself. Like, I figured there'd be a little bit more resistance.
I mean, what are friends for?
Remember, Roy's thought something was up for a while, ever since that cave.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
that you got all scary about.
Amul's thinking is like, hey, what's the point of having like a robot body if you can't play with it? Like,
Okay, I've got my 4 categories. I need to just finish writing the last ones down. ANS, and then... Alright. Who wants to go on the first area?
Well, does it have more to do with hardware or software? Because my Emil's skills are in hardware, mine are in software.
I think that software is... I think they're all going to be software checks. And you 3 are all pretty good at software. So,
Okay.
Amul has a 4 and I have a 4 in software, but I have a 5 in hardware.
I have a 4 in software and I have a 1 in hardware.
So
Ooh, okay.
I like
Yeah.
the breakdown of like, because I think Amul is used to his software its software, excuse me. Their software is not dealing with this kind of stuff. This is not my wheelhouse. So I'm going to set up the uplink and I'm going to create the like actual systems like the physical architecture to make this happen. And then I think Roy can set up the like software that we're going to be running on.
Yeah.
So here's what I want to do, and I think the justification for this is going to be that it is dangerous to have these like safeguards taken down for any period of time. Like not only dangerous in like mate could get a virus, but like other parts of mate's, it's like taking an organ out of the human body. Other parts of mate's system might start shutting down in response to turning off these ports. So you guys are going to need to move really fast.
I
So
think
I
I
don't
think
want the
that
polarity in his positronic network to get reversed.
I think that also Amel can be there on a standby that if like a subsystem is shutting down, like you can artificially stimulate that with
woo.
electricity to like bring it back online. You
Okay.
know?
Yes.
So like
Here's what we're going to do.
the software is going to like the software is going to fail, but like I can still like be there with a little 5-volt power supply and go deep.
Okay, so we're just gonna do the
We're
short
going to go-
circuit. That's great.
We're gonna go
Yeah.
back and forth with Roy and Mate, and if either of them gets a bad roll, then a mill can substitute in. Like there's like one a mill hole roll that is just on hold. So
It's a fail-safe hardware roll. Like I step in, recognize that like I'm like, oh, that circuit should be hot. Let me just
okay.
zap it.
So let's do Mate starts things off, and then at the end of Mate's first check, they open up the port that is going to like put them in sleep mode, and then we're gonna do Roy, and then Mate, and then Roy.
Also, quick
Mhm.
side note, I have a little like sievert meter, like one of those radiation meters, you know those Geiger counter, excuse me. Like
Mm.
I'm just checking the Geiger counter just to make sure I'm not like blasting the ship with too much. So that's going on in the background the whole time. You hear that
Good.
noise.
All right. Give me a second, because I just came up with an idea for how I was going to do this. All right. So
While we
Mate
were talking, Roy left for a bit and put on a lead-lined cloak.
Mate has 10 mental stress. I'm gonna make this a 12. Well, I have to do it. Yeah, we'll do a 12 and see how it goes from there. Make it a
Do stresses reset between gaming?
Yes, I would you can reset your stress. You guys can also all set yourself back to your base number of fate points. I just it hadn't come up, and stress is not going to be a big factor for Roy in this thing, so I didn't.
Okay.
Okay. Mate, give me a software roll. All right. So Mate did. How did Mate do? Mate didn't do great. Emil, do you want to sub in your one hardware roll here, or do you want to keep going with the results that you have? I know this is going a little
In
bit
this
off,
instance,
but we're not going to do fate points for this.
I want to save my. I think I'm kind of like the ace in the hole, so I think we could do a fate point here.
No. What I meant is, I don't want to give you guys the option of using fate points here,
Oh.
because I like the idea of you guys having. Here's what I'll do instead. Emil, you have one hardware roll you can sub in and one software roll you can sub in, but
all right.
you have to choose when to use those two rolls.
I'll try subbing in the software roll this time.
All right. All right.
Yeah, good
That's a
sub.
very good roll.
Very good roll.
Okay. So, Mate, you rolled an 11. The way that I'm doing this is every time you do this, Mate is going to suffer an amount of mental damage that
Ooh.
equal to 11 minus the roll value, and the roll value was 11, so you suffered no mental damage.
Huzzah.
The first section you learn after you are able to open it up is actually a section on progenitors, and You rolled an
Roy,
11,
yourself.
which is pretty good, but considering how hard this is, I think that's only like a medium in the results that I would accept. So here's what you know about the progenitors. You know that the progenitors were a race that existed thousands of years. Let's go with tens of thousands of years before humanity evolved. You also know that they existed before the network or before the Aelfinn existed. And with an 11, I can tell you that they had a galaxy-spanning empire with a very powerful technology and all that stuff, and that they were big into genetic experimentation has a connotation that is not quite right. They liked sculpting species. They liked to play God and make worlds and creatures that fit their fancy. And so what you know, mate, is that the reason just about every sentient creature in the galaxy is bipedal and generally has the same structure of like arms and eyes and a mouth, even though that makes like no sense in the big picture. If life actually evolved from scratch on each planet, that would not happen. The reason that happened is because every one of those species was created in the image of the progenitors, and
Okay.
the progenitors seeded planets all across the galaxy with they did not put like fully formed humans down. They put down like early primitive life forms of like early sea life kind of things, but in a way that they had systems in place that they knew were going to lead to life forms similar to the progenitors. So, you know what a progenitor. Actually, you know what? No, I established that you don't have like your actual memory.
Yeah, I don't know.
So you don't know what a progenitor looks like, but you do have an idea that you could kind of guess what a progenitor looks like
Based on
by
this.
taking the commonality traits of every sentient creature in the galaxy.
Okay, that's neat.
Very interesting. So just to make sure I'm clear, they did this more out of a want to reproduce a cultural aesthetic rather than greed or resources or anything like that.
Yeah, well, you do not, mate does not have access in his files that would imply for sure what the motivation is, but they were not creating these species for the sake of being like slave servant species. However, we're about to get to that with our next roll. So with that, mate, you need to open up the port that accesses like a different part of your memory, and as of opening that port, you are essentially shut down for the next little bit. Roy, it's on you. Give me a
Okay.
software check. Ten. All right. So, mate, you're going to suffer 1 point of mental damage. I'm just
All right.
going to go ahead and...
So mate just starts fidgeting a little bit. Just
yeah,
a little bit of a fidget.
Okay. So
Roy pulls
that's
back
not
slightly and
bad.
then continues his work.
I assume that you guys are going to keep that. You're not going to sub in a Mills hardware roll.
No,
No, that's a
but,
decent one. We should keep that.
Only
No,
1 point.
yeah, we're gonna keep that, but that tiny little bit of fidget makes Emil nervous.
Yep. Okay. So Roy, you open up this section and you are able to, I think that you kind of get like a big dump file, and you don't necessarily access. You're not necessarily able to like read everything in the file, but I think you get like a dump zip folder that you have to extract really fast so that you can get Mate back online as soon as possible. But you do get a preview of the information while it's extracting. So I'm going to give you some basics, and then you can let me know if you have any reaction to that, and then Mate is going to come online, and I'm going to give you the rest of what you came up with, all right?
Okay.
All right. So, you know that the network has a single consciousness.
Oh.
Yes, the network has a single consciousness, and then each terminal has like a short-term copy of that consciousness that then gets merged back into the greater consciousness when they reconnect at a network homeworld. You've discovered that. You also have discovered that the network operates on a fundamentally. You know that the network is artificial. The network was created by the progenitors. I think I can tell you that. And the other thing I'm going to tell you is that the network has, or at one point had a personality installed into it that was not sheerly for the purpose of being computational. It was created with a personality. Knowing all that information, is there anything you do before Mate comes back online?
I think Roy would mutter intriguing under his breath. I was considering turning to Emil and telling him that we need to keep Mate offline to get even more information.
Oh, I like this. I'm a big fan of this. I'm a big fan of this. I'm interested in the fact that Roy's cool with that level of danger to get this information.
Again, he doesn't think that he's really harming you. But yeah.
I say
the reason why is because Roy feels, and I'm not sure of the actual dialogue that would transpire, so this is just me, the player, talking. So the reason would be because, and I don't think anybody else on the ship would know this, so this is probably something new that Emil would be learning about Roy. That Roy has some sort of commonality, or feels that, maybe he's wrong, but feels that he has some sort of commonality with whatever that consciousness of the early network may have been. And because of that commonality, he wants to push further.
Okay, but we gotta set the scene for this. Like, in the bowels of the Gemini, there's like this everything is pitch dark except for this extremely blue light, and there's like a Geiger counter going off like crazy, and like Mate is sitting there
bright
like
flashes of energy.
Mate is sitting there with like mechanical eyes rolled into the back of their like head, like twitching slightly, and Roy looks up at like Emil and goes, "We have to go deeper."
Perfect.
Emil nervously looks back and goes, "Proceed. I am here if Mate needs us."
Okay, so that's great. One little detail, because I really like where that scene went. Mate does not have like robotic eyeballs like cameras.
No, I mean more metaphorically, but
they have okay, you know those security cameras that have like when you look at it, it looks like just a dark black glass ball, and you know there's a security camera in there, but it's really hard to see.
Yeah.
Mate's head is like that. It's just a black sphere. I modeled Mate's character off of Vivi. And then, much like Vivi, Mate has two eyes, but those eyes are just like a series of LEDs that pop up in the middle of their face. So I think instead of their eyes rolling back, it's just the LEDs turn off, and then the like eyes twitching is just like one pixel, just like flicking on and off occasionally.
Oh god. Yeah, that's good shit.
All right. Roy, so you have opted to go further, which means I'm gonna make you roll.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna make you roll another software check, and this is not to get more information out because the information has been extracted. This is for you to filter through the file that has been extracted and get a more detailed preview of it before Nate wakes up.
Okay. Sounds good. Hey.
All right, 11 is very good. So no mental damage for Mate.
Told you I'd be careful.
So
Thank you so much.
you find the network. I'm thinking about what is like one really juicy piece of information that I can give you. Okay. You know that okay, so this is a little bit of information about the progenitors that then reflects into the network. You learn while researching the network that the progenitors were big into auto modification. So kind of like how humans in modern day spacefarer like to get augments and have like extra limbs and
Right.
give themselves X-ray eyes and stuff like that.
Right. Shocked by this. Shocked.
Progenitors were also into that, except progenitors were into it on a biological level,
Oh.
and so they would just like inject themselves with like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde serum, and then grow an extra arm, as opposed to sticking a metal arm on. And what this reveals about the network is that so they had like metal kind of artificial technology, but they considered it crude compared to biological technology. So the network was created for the purpose of being kind of like stewards for their empire as their empire was getting to a point where their ambitions were kind of dying down and they were becoming more complacent and lazy, and they just wanted something to like take care of all the logistics for them. The network was created to take care of the logistics, and it was created um, off of the warp shadow of a particular individual. Warp shadows being synonymous with souls as well as synonymous with brains. So
Whoa.
the brain, thought, soul, whatever of one member of the progenitors was used to create the network. And then that network went on to be stewards for all of the progenitors for the next the remainder of their empire's reign. And that is all you get.
Holy shit, though. Holy shit.
I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh, I'm not surprised by this, but I'm like, oh, this is very surprising to you all.
Is this just coming up on this? Is this just like coming up on a screen that both like Amal and Roy are like looking at, like mouths agape kind of thing?
Yes, and I think that you are able to see that screen because yeah, this is the difference between you guys have extracted the files, and as soon as this like little sub scene is done, you're going to be able to open all of the files that you extracted, and Mate will have access to everything I told you, plus a little more, that it becomes like public knowledge. But what you're getting right now is the information that you get to look at before Mate becomes conscious, and that is in that is what is showing up on the screen. All right, so
Wow.
do you do anything before Mate becomes conscious? This has to be a very quick decision because
No.
wait any longer and there's damage. Okay, you don't do
No.
anything?
No, I think we're good for now.
Okay. Mate, you come back into consciousness, and I think that the like file that they extracted is already like there on the surface. You can already see it. And so you gain all that information that I just told them, as well as is there any good detail I could tell you? That's like one more thing to tie it all up.
I'm gonna look at my watch real
Roy-
quick. I'm gonna actually like check the scanners, not the like my email and stuff like that, to see if anybody noticed the momentary collapse of every single thing the ship does.
Roy is laser focused with curiosity now on whoever or whatever the progenitor that was copied that became the network. Largely because he believes or he thinks that it's thrown his personal belief kind of upside down. His belief in synthetic life or whatever he is being separate from biologicals and organics.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
it puts it in the perspective of those two possibly having a meeting point sometime
Right.
far, far, far in the past. So his shit's all in disarray. He's not like outwardly visibly upset or anything. But I imagine that he would have wanted to go deeper and leave Mate offline longer. But Emil strongly rejected the notion.
Yeah.
Probably.
Hence the quick decision. But yeah.
I love this. This is very good. Mate. Mate comes back online. So, Mate, you have access to everything that I just told them. Is there any question that, like, you might want to ask that I have not thought of yet that I can throw in as an extra detail before we move on? This is on the subject of what is the network? The, like, wiki entry for the network.
First of all, so mate comes back online and is just like, oh hey guys, and then just kind of like looks up into their own head, which is kind of weird because it just looks like I'd close my eyes, and I'm just like, oh.
And I will look back and be like,
Oh.
yep. Oh.
Oh.
Roy's just sitting there with his arms folded with a "told you so" look.
Oh. I definitely think Mate would want to know if it's how long it will be safe for them to be away from the network.
Oh, okay. Ooh. All right.
Hey, Bren,
Yeah.
do you remember how this was never explicitly stated, but I think that when I offered using the Galanga as an idea, didn't we suggest that I would just like swap in my chat bot, my like pretty shitty chat bot, and it would like give us a little bit of time?
Yeah. Is that what you want to do?
That's what I think I would have wanted to do, but forgot about it. Forgot to mention it explicitly.
Okay. Yeah, you're doing that. That is
Okay.
duly noted. Okay, so, that has happened. Mate, I think that the answer is, short answer is 18 months. Long answer is you'll get a gradual reduction of functionality, and then 18 months is just kind of like 18 months is like the half-life. At 18 months, you are at like 50% of the functionality that you were at when you left the network, and then at 36 months, you're at 25% of the functionality, you know?
Is this
Um,
something
info
that I can
Mate
keep to
has,
myself?
but others don't yet.
Nope. Well, that went into the zip file, which is stored inside of Mate's like readable and information. So you guys did not read that. It depends on if Mate chooses to share that zip file when this is all done.
Okay.
But that's the thing. Oh, I had one other thing for you. That is not. Oh, Kevin, this is very
Yes.
important.
Uh-huh.
Kevin, your alarm was going off just a second ago.
My what?
Your alarm on your phone.
Oh shit! All right, I'll be. Hold on.
In the
I'm
real
coming.
world.
It's like, no, your actual alarm is going off. This is not a drill.
Yeah.
It's like, oh
sorry.
shit, what did we do, mate? What did you blow up?
It's like I set another fire.
So,
Buy us more time.
so it is on the table there.
So whenever
So-
you decide to share that bit of information, Roy is just going to say, it looks like you have an expiration date too. I
the
don't want to
other
forget that.
thing Was Mate is oh, Mate. So that is not necessarily the time until you. I'm gonna give you one extra roll. Mate, either you are going to lose access to. So here's the thing. There is one very vital piece of information that you are going to be able to access from within that same data set. You can use one roll to get it. That roll can either come from a mill, or you can use up your last your roll for the last of the 4 data sets.
And then that means that'll be between Emil and Roy to do the last data sets then, right?
No. That just means, so if you go with the second option, there are 4 data sets. You will only have access to 3 of them, but you will be able to use Emil's like re-roll if you fuck up that third roll.
I'd like to play it. Yeah, let's roll for that. I would like to know what's in that data set.
Okay, so you're going to be giving up the 4th data set
Yes.
and to get this one very valuable piece of information.
Yes. You've keyed it as very valuable, and I'm very intrigued.
Yep. Roll software. All right. You suffer 2 points of mental stress. So you are down to 7 out of 10 now.
Okay.
And because that's a relatively low roll on the spectrum that I would accept, you're only going to get a like limited version of this idea. What you learn is that you do not actually need to reconnect to the network intelligence itself. You would be able to reverse. That's the word I was looking for. You'll be able to reverse the damage just by accessing a network data cache, and these are at various points throughout the galaxy, and they are intended for they're basically backup points. If the network ever got damaged in any of its core memory banks, it would retrieve the damaged files from the data caches.
Yes. Okay. I like that, and I like not having a ton of info to go on there, but enough to kind of press on towards one of those data centers. Yeah, that's
Yep.
cool. I like having that.
That is your that is your thing. What you're going to so the like in fiction justification for losing that last data set is you are approaching the threshold where the radiation is going to like hit a critical level soon, and you used to have time to do 2 more checks, but you just spent some of that time finding that one file. So now you only have time to do 1 check left. Here's what I will give you. You're able to just skim off the top and find the like headers of these 2 sections. You can choose either the section that is titled Xenotions or the section that is titled Revolution.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, mate's gonna push for going into the revolution section. Yeah, that's the one.
So what you learn is that the network was a servant race of the progenitors. We already told you guys that. And we told you that all of the other races, the humans, the Fauниans, the Florins, stuff like that. Actually, Faunians are an exception to this. But you didn't get that piece of information. So most races were created just to exist, and just as experiments and just out of curiosity. 2 particular races were created as servant races. Yeah, 2. So the first was the network, and the second was the Aelfinn. So the Aelfinn were created as actually, you don't have access to that information. You do know that the Aelfinn were created to be servants of the progenitors, and you know that the network was also created for the same reason.
I feel like a lot of people on our crew would like to know that.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh
We may
damn.
not want to share this information with the
So, what you learn is that as the progenitor society got more and more kind of fell down the imperial hole of heathenism and whatever that is always used as the excuse for, the downfall of great civilizations. During that, they began to abuse powers, and you started seeing abuses both against the progenitor's own people and against the child races that they had created. And it got to a point that the Aelfinn and the network both agreed that they had to be stopped. And for the network, it was actually personal because of that thing I mentioned earlier about the network being like sentient and having its own personality. The network had an ethical model, and it ethically did not want the progenitors to continue with what they were doing. And it was actually like personally offended and like hurt at their actions. So you know that okay, I can give you this. You didn't get the full page on Xenotions, so I'm not going to give you all the Xenocian lore, but this is related to Revolution. You know that the network wanted to create a weapon that would destroy the progenitors. they tried leading the child races through revolutions, but they just were not yet at a point that they could compete with the progenitors. And even if it was the galaxy as it is today, they might not be at a point where they could compete with the progenitors. So they needed something more dangerous and more powerful and more persistent than the child races, because every time one of the child races rose up, they just got crushed in like a matter of days, and then their planet was like, glassed out of existence. So you needed some special weapon that would tip the balance, and the network and the Aelfinn, who were working together to overthrow the progenitors, each proposed one half of a solution. The network created a biological species out of the same technology of adaptable biotech that the progenitors had always used. And they created a species that would be able to persist like a virus that could never truly die, because it could survive in space and it could spread like a virus throughout the galaxy, and anytime it found a planet, it could evolve and adapt and grow as a species until it was strong enough to defeat the progenitors. And along with the tool that the Aelfinn created, it did defeat the progenitors. The first prototype, which was not the one that went to market, so to speak, was a species of humanoid creatures that were able to take on the traits of individual other mammals, and that species went on to be the Faunians. So every Faunian, like Liko, were actually part of a species that the network created as proto-Xenocians.
Wow.
So
Well, damn.
the network created Xenocians. Faunians were proto-Xenocians. And that is how you guys defeated the progenitors. The last thing you know is that at the end of the war, the last remaining progenitors locked themselves in time vaults that were they would not experience the passage of time as long as these vaults held up. And you know that there were at one point thousands of them scattered across the galaxy. You do not know where any of them are, but you know that in theory there are progenitors out there waiting in vaults to be woken up and restart their empire. You know
Necrons?
this thing. Yes.
The
You
old
know
ones.
the thing that
No.
you found in chapter 1 was one of those progenitor time vaults. Yeah, and you know that the Xenocians ended the war, but you weren't able to put the genie back in the bottle, which is why the network has always helped every species to fight the network or the Xenocians without question.
Okay.
It's also very similar to the story of like the Tyranids.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yep. Okay, so there was a lot going on there.
Yeah, there was.
With that,
So I'm guessing that we're still sort of in scene. I want to just be like, hey mate, don't worry, I'm gonna like clean all this up and I'll take care. You just go like process this, man. I'll take care of like cleaning this up and dealing with the fallout of like making the ship go dark for a few minutes.
so do you guys want to check? Do you have any other things that need to happen in this scene, or any other questions that you want to ask?
Roy does not. This is a lot of information to digest.
This is something I am going to say, do you guys want to go to the tavern?
At the end of this, though, did
Say
this
what?
help with the other like the focus of Mate wanting to do this in the first place, which was figuring out the de-addressed memory space that existed in them, or no?
Yeah, that was what you've been opening.
Okay.
The other thing I can tell you is, so you should now know logically that that scene that you remembered, where you remembered yourself being in a Xenosian home, that was during one of the prototype periods when you were like studying the species as it evolved and as it like went through development. You would go into these essentially zoos that you had set up of like Xenosian playgrounds, and you would, I mean, you being the network, like the entirety of the network, would send down terminals that would, you know, check in on them. And at that time, the Xenosians had a peaceful relationship with you. That is one thing you know. The other thing is that you were able to recover a lot of information, but not a lot of memories. And you know that those data caches that I mentioned would, in addition to helping you retain your sanity, would help you regain your memories.
Okay. That's awesome. Okay. I'm very happy with that. Mate would send in what they consider an adequate amount of credits to both Emil and Roy for their services because they believe in tipping, and would not say anything else and just leave. I think they leave. I think they leave the Gemini.
Roy wouldn't respond to Emil's question about the bar, but would probably just like walk along with him, like reviewing records from a tablet and
Real
just
quick,
being a prick.
which one of you guys do you think left the room first? Is it Mate?
I would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mate, what do we have? What's it called? Is it a perception check? Is that the name
Is
of
it
the skill in this?
intuition, or?
I swear we.
Oh no,
yeah,
no, we do
roll-
have a perception. Yeah, can I roll perception?
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to roll a perception. Oh God, it's so good! Holy hell!
I like to look around.
Oh,
That's double nat 6s and a +4, which is like the highest number you can have.
I think this
Without-
has to be the clearest moment of Mate's existence.
Mate just
Yeah,
wins the game. That's it.
So, Mate, what you see is you see a couple locks of auburn hair ducking around a corner from the end of the hall, and because you have special eyes, you have special robot eyes, and you just happened to like, I think it's one of those things where you were just staring in the distance at nothing, and the nothing that you happened to be staring at was that exact spot. You are able to recognize that they were the hair locks of Corin, the engineer. So now, you guys head to the tavern?
hmm
All right. Then that's going to be the end of the scene.
That's gonna be the end of the scene. I am going to, however, take my new. I'm very proud of this X-ray optocoupler that I just created, and I'm gonna be like beaming about it the whole way up to the tavern. Guys, look what I made!
Yeah, that was
Roy's
awesome.
Wearing his lead-lined cloak in the tavern, and everybody's kind of giving him the "what the fuck is going on" look.
It's like, it is like 3 a.m, so there's not a lot of people in the tavern.
Why don't we just shut off all the lights for 5 minutes?
Oh boy. So Jesus, that was a heck of a scene. I want
We did
to
it.
get at least a if we can get one more scene done with Aveline and her crew, then the only other scene that I need to get done is going to be a very short Emil scene. And I'm gonna do that at the start of the next chapter game, I think. Or the start of our next game. So the last thing we're going to do for this game is Aeneas and Morgan. I'm gonna give you that same list. Okay. You already did sparring practice, which means your options are tea time or go to one of Otema's sermons.
Tea time.
Yeah, I'm feeling tea time.
Okay. All right. So I actually think that tea time is going to be a relatively short one, so I might be able to do both of them. This scene takes place in the garden, so and then Control Shift O. Here we go. Oh, I don't actually want this on here. I want it make it a little bit bigger. And grab these fools, move them down. Shachipili. Ruda. Anwar. Aveline and okay, two back, Control Shift. There it is. All right. So these are all the players in the tea time scene. Now, Anwar's training is just to meditate and to write in a diary. Ruda, you have been instructed once a week to have tea with Jagara. So, because Jagara is actually a plant-based mechanism, she is actually sitting in a little pool that has been filled with well, not filled, but has maybe like 100 tea bags sitting in it, and she is just kind of sitting in the tea, steeping. Yeah. What is Ruda's drink of choice?
Ruda has developed a taste for this one particular tea that comes from this really far away jungle, and he always has a stock of it ever since he started drinking tea.
So that's what you're drinking. What is your setup? You haven't been given specific instructions on how to go about this. So Jagara is sitting in her little big puddle of tea water.
Yeah.
Is Ruda sitting with maybe he's got a little picnic blanket spread out and maybe
no, Ruda's just kind of sitting on the vegetation on
Yeah.
the ground, cross-legged. It's also worth noting that he has put a little tiny bit of space weed into his tea to
very good.
spice things up a little bit.
I'm imagining Ruda doesn't have a teacup. I imagine that Ruda has one of those water skins that you take when you're when you're hiking, or maybe just like a big sturdy water bottle full of weed tea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, he has that like water reservoir and a backpack.
Okay. So um so I think that Jagara is not used to being a somebody's wraith body. I think that you are the first pilot she's ever had. Um, and so she knows in theory that it is important for pilots and their wraith bodies to have bonding time together where they, you know, reaffirm their relationship and they grow closer so that when they're on the battlefield they'll respond intuitively and they think like one person. But she doesn't really know where to start. Uh, so I think that that's where she starts. I think she kind of starts by awkwardly saying that she doesn't know what she's supposed to do here.
Yeah, Ruda's reminiscing about his father, and he's like talking with Jagara about stories about his father. So he's like, Jagara, remember that time when Dad wanted to like go on a crusade against all the demons, and he got really drunk one night, and he went to that bar, and he got like a mob of like 50 people to come with him.
God. I think she laughs and she says, "Yeah, I was in that mob. We
Oh
did
shit, you were.
summon and kill a lot of demons.
I wanted to be in that mob so badly.
We also got like a dozen Aelfinn killed. So, you know, you
Yeah,
win
but
some.
Dad gloated about that.
Um, yeah, he did. Um, Ruda, are you aware that your dad wasn't the most perfect person? I loved him, and I still love him, but you know he had some problems.
What do you mean?
I mean, I know that he never told me he loved me. Did he? Oh, real quick, 420 blaze it. Did he
Wow.
Well, all
in
right.
fiction?
Whatever you say.
That happened in fiction. Um, did he ever tell you that he loved you?
I mean, no, but I don't think he ever told anybody he loved anybody.
Yeah, so I think
I think I heard him say to the cat once.
so I think at that she lowers a hand down and she says, and remember her hand is a mech's hand, so her hand is the size of you, but she's kind of like resting it on the ground in front of you, not in a like expecting you to do anything with it, just kind of as a gesture. And she says, "This is what I mean, Ruda. Your dad was brave and strong and ferocious, and he did a lot of good in his lifetime. But I'm not sure that he was a good man. I'm not sure that what I'm saying is I don't want to see you get lost becoming your father because I think that you can be better than your father."
Ruda's like, I'm way too fucking high right now for this.
Um, so you guys have at least 4 such tea times before the next chapter happens. And the tea times, when you have them with Jagara, they sometimes get didactic and serious like that. And when they do, it's usually her pushing you to um, find the things, find something that is worth fighting for that isn't just hate or money. Find something that you're passionate about and that you care about and that you want to protect. Um, And I think at the same time, Jagara, I think that you kind of have to break down some of Jagara's walls. So I'm going to ask you this question, Morgan, out of character. What is what's an issue that Jagara might have? What's a room for personal growth?
I think like just as Ruda is like not sensitive and
Yeah.
like too hard on strangers, maybe Jagara is like naive, kind of like the extreme opposite.
That's interesting. That's very different than how I had imagined her. Okay. I like that.
How would you imagine her?
Well, I mean, I always imagined her as like a you know, grizzled veteran. But like the kind of grizzled veteran that got out of the war and actually developed a personality and became a
what?
There was the kind of grizzled veteran that finished a war and then just signed right back up because he could never adapt to civilian life. That
I
kind
actually
of
like that. I actually like that better.
Okay. So maybe her issue is that she does care for people. She cares for Ruda especially, and she cared for Ruda's father, and she cares for a lot of people. But because of her time in service, she doesn't really know how to communicate with people and how to express emotions. So I think that maybe this time where you guys have basically been like put in the timeout corner and forced to hang out and talk about your feelings, I think maybe one of the big things that happens is that you two are both forced to confront the fact that you are sentient creatures with feelings.
I like that because then we're kind of in the same boat together.
Yeah, and you're both very uncomfortable, but you both know that you need to do this.
I love this.
It's very good. Aveline, you let's see. So I think that once that Ruda gets settled and is having a conversation, Xochipilli comes over to check on you. I want you to tell me, what do you think that Aveline communing with her sword looks like? How does that scene start?
I think that Zachipili would probably like try to give Aveline some pointers, like you need to be in your natural element and like feeling relaxed to communicate with your sword. So get yourself into an area and a position that feels natural to you so you can easily communicate with the sword. And Aveline opts to just hang upside down from a tree branch while she's holding the sword in her hands. And she's just like, okay, great, this is perfect.
Okay, I love that. And I think that what happens is for the first like 5 minutes, nothing happens and you just feel silly. And then I think 5 minutes after that, you are beginning to get a little lightheaded and you feel like you might be getting kind of dizzy. And as you're slipping into this threshold of semi-consciousness, and weird head space, that's I think I think that you do the same thing as opening your third eye, but you do it in a different way. Um, it's more of a like emotional third eye. And I think that while you are hanging there, suddenly you it's not a physical, it's not a literal like visual thing, but you can kind of feel the sword, and the sword is named Siva. You can feel Siva sitting on the branch beside you. And it does, you don't communicate with her in words, but you can communicate with her in thoughts. So it's like pictures and sensations and emotions. Um, so I think that she introduces herself with an image of that life story that I did send you the life story that I had come up with. No, you came up with the life story for
I
Siva.
did.
Yeah, that was you. Okay, so she sends you, I think, just like a few kind of still images from that story that give you a vague sensation of what type of person she was and what type of life she led. Um, and then I think she sends you another series of images, and these mostly focus on the idea of time passing. So I think there's a lot of like flicker, 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 where every just rapid fire images of all the different people who have held her over the ages, um, to communicate how old she is. And then I think the last image she sends is you, but I think it's kind of an imagined image of like you standing on a hill with a sword raised high over before like an army of Xenocians, and you've got a um like a wall of Aelfinn spirits spinning out from behind you in the clouds, and that is her acknowledging you, and that she knows who Aveline is. So, what does Aveline send back?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's hard. Remember, think of it just like a conversation. And if you want, we can just do it as a conversation with words. And we can just be aware that it's happening with like non-literal words. Um, but if you get stuck, you can always just go casual.
I feel like Aveline is probably really overwhelmed, like, with just communicating in this manner because it's not something that she's physically used to.
Well, and
So,
also because she has currently been hanging upside down from her knees for the past 10 minutes.
yeah, that too. But, like, I imagine that it puts her in a place where she's more willing to just follow Siva's lead. And so I think that Aveline probably starts by sending images back to Siva, and it's probably in a way where she hopes it's working because in reality she's probably just thinking about these things, but she's like sending images of just her general life in the same way that Siva did. So she starts on her home planet. You see images of her parents. You see images of her growing up and going to college. And then it starts with like I would think it starts with a very happy bloom kind of filter. And then as she starts approaching the memories of like the Free States of Macedonia invading, like she starts pulling up the images of like her home planet being invaded, the explosion that resulted in her losing her legs, getting rescued by the children of the warp, and it starts to get more of a grainy filter as she gets to the harder parts to remember.
Yeah.
And then she starts sending images of like her children of the warp training and getting her new legs, and she eventually reaches like current state with everything that they've been doing on like the Gemini, but I think that Aveline probably does spend a lot of time specifically on the last mission because of how
Yeah.
much it affected her.
Sure, that's great. I think the thing that she sends back to you is a mental image of a well, it was a creature that lived on her home world. And it is a mental image of a creature that's kind of like a tiger, and it is like emaciated and wounded and tired looking and maybe old looking, but it is snarling defiantly while standing over cubs. And I think that it is an idea of defiance and perseverance. And I think that is the idea that she sends back to you. Um, what is one like question or idea that we need to communicate with this scene? Okay. Um, so I think that she sends you an idea of her mental image of Aveline, and she is standing. You're standing in front of a bunch of doors, and behind one door is just like piles and piles of gold, and behind another door is uh, an image of you with a husband and children, and it's this like perfect domestic, settled down life. And then there's another door that has you standing up on a pedestal, receiving some award and giving a speech. And there's all of these doors representing different like life dreams. And then I think she kind of just holds that image there for a second, and you almost feel this weird sensation as she like passes the image off to you, as if asking, which door do you walk towards? And I mean, there are many doors there, so if you have a particular one, you just tell me what the door contains.
Hmm.
Oh, hold on. Keep going. I totally forgot. I have a sprite for Siva.
Oh, right. Uh, I feel like Aveline would spend a lot of time like
Like pacing in front of the doors.
yeah, like she's walking back and forth, she's looking into them, but she's not ever walking through one specifically, and she's like getting a feel for them, but I think that she would naturally gravitate more towards one of the doors that more shows herself and like coming to the end of like her own personal struggles and journeys that mean the most to her. Like, I'm sure that Aveline does have like notions of wanting a perfect domestic life or like receiving an award for something great that she's done, but I feel like overall Aveline wants to get to a place where
Here's
she feels confident in herself and she doesn't feel like she needs people even if she does have their support.
here's what I think that door is. You see a door, and the composition on this has to be tricky because it has to work from one frame of perspective. Um, on one side of the canvas, so to speak, you see a just a beautiful like uh a sitting space, like a place that you might go on a hike and go like sit on a bench in front of a waterfall or over a beautiful cliff looking out over the, surrounding valley or whatever. And then on the other side of the campus, you see this trail that winds up to the bench and then winds down a hill and across the valley below, and you can see it winding off into the distance. And it communicates the idea of this being a very long and arduous road, and there being a rest and completion at the end of it. Does that feel right to you?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, then that is the one that Aveline walks into, and I think that the last mental image is just of Siva like bowing to you, and then I think up until now you've gotten a very serious view of Siva. And I think after her bowing to you, I think the next mental image that you get, and this one just kind of persists for a while, is the branch that you are hanging from. And at this point, you are pretty lightheaded. You see yourself hanging from that branch, and then you see Siva as if she was a physical person hanging from that branch. She's got 4 arms and horns and a tail, as all Aelfinn do, and she has her legs hooked over the branch right next to you, and she is hanging down upside down right beside you, and 2 of her hands are hanging over her head, which is actually under her head, and just kind of like waving above the ground. And then she's wearing this very cottony, simple, like tunic dress, and I think her other 2 hands are holding up the hem of her dress because she is currently upside down. And I think it's this image of like she doesn't have anything more she needs to say right now, but she just wants to communicate that she's there.
I think the image makes Aveline smile, and she kind of sends the same image back to Siva to, like, just communicate that she appreciates it and she feels that as well. They feel the same way.
Okay. Yeah, that was beautiful. I think that has to be the stopping point for the game. This game has had basically like the entire game was just like 3 really powerful scenes. That was
Big
great.
stuff going on over here.
Yeah, very big brain. That would be a very good stopping point. That was good.
Next game, we are going to open up with Otema's sermon, just because that's a very cute short scene that I have planned, and then we're going to do Anwar's. Nope, that's not right. Emil. We're going to do Emil's scene, and then we're going to have Aveline connecting with Nox and getting the chapter started off.
So, Brad,
So,
this
yeah.
this game, well, I feel like this game, and I guess the first part of next game, it feels like the end of disc 1 on a 1995 JRPG.
You're right. It really is about to just say, "Please insert disc 2."
Please, yeah.
It's
Ouch!
so
Ouch! Cut. Cue outro
Just getting out
song.
of Midgard.
That was perfect. Yeah, guys, this game was beautiful. I'm really enjoyed it.
Good times, everyone.
Yeah, it was a lot of
Enjoy
fun.
Enjoy the rest of your weekends.
Yeah, everybody have a good weekend.
Yeah. Well, too.
Retroactive 420 Blaze It.
Yeah.
See ya.
Bye.
Peace.